You cut your finger. Within seconds, the area turns red. It swells. It feels warm. It throbs. You think something is wrong, but here is what is actually happening. Nothing is wrong. Everything is working exactly as designed. Your body just launched one of the most sophisticated defense systems in nature. Millions of cells mobilized, chemical signals cascaded, blood flow redirected, an entire army deployed, all to protect a tiny wound on your finger. This is inflammation, and when it works properly, it is one of the most brilliant things your body does. But here is the mystery. The same process that heals your cut, that fights infections, repairs tissue, and keeps you alive, is also silently driving heart disease, diabetes, Alzheimer's, cancer, depression, and nearly every chronic illness of modern life. How can the same system be both life-saving and life-threatening? The answer lies in understanding every level of inflammation that affects your body, from the first moment of protection to the silent damage that accumulates over decades. This is the story of inflammation, and it is far more complex than most people realize. Let us start at the beginning. The moment you cut your finger, damaged cells release chemical alarm signals. Think of these as emergency flares shot into the bloodstream. The main signals are called cytokines and prostaglandins, chemical messengers that tell the body, "We have a breach, send help." Within seconds, blood vessels near the wound dilate. They widen to allow more blood flow to the area. This is why the skin turns red and feels warm. More blood is rushing to the scene. At the same time, the blood vessels become more permeable. Their walls become slightly leaky, allowing immune cells and healing proteins to squeeze through into the damaged tissue. This causes swelling, fluid accumulates, pressure builds. Now imagine your immune system as an army. The first responders are neutrophils, white blood cells that arrive within minutes. They are the infantry. They attack anything that looks foreign, bacteria, debris, dead cells. They engulf and destroy. Behind them come macrophages, larger immune cells whose name literally means big eaters. They clean up the battlefield. They consume dead neutrophils, damaged tissue, and remaining pathogens. Then come the repair crews. Fibroblasts arrive to rebuild tissue. New blood vessels form. Collagen is laid down. The wound closes. This entire process, from alarm to attack to cleanup to repair, is acute inflammation, and it is essential for survival. Without inflammation, a simple cut could kill you. Bacteria would enter unchallenged. Infections would spread. Tissue would never heal. Inflammation is not the enemy. Inflammation is the body's emergency response system. But here is where the story gets complicated. Acute inflammation is supposed to be temporary. The alarm sounds. The army mobilizes. The threat is neutralized. The army stands down. Inflammation resolves. Healing completes. This cycle, activation followed by resolution, is how the system is designed to work. But what happens when the alarm never stops? What happens when the army never stands down? What happens when inflammation becomes chronic? Level 2. Chronic low-grade inflammation. This is where most modern disease begins. Chronic inflammation is not dramatic. It does not cause obvious redness or swelling. It does not throb or ache in ways you can easily feel. It is silent. It operates at a low level, constantly simmering beneath the surface, day after day, year after year. Here is how it happens. The body's inflammatory system is triggered not just by wounds and infections. It is triggered by anything the body perceives as a threat. And in modern life, threats are everywhere. Processed food triggers inflammation. When you eat highly refined foods, sugar, seed oils, artificial additives, your immune system reacts as if something harmful has entered the body. Excess body fat triggers inflammation. Fat tissue is not just storage. It is an active organ that releases inflammatory cytokines. The more excess fat you carry, the more inflammatory signals circulate. Chronic stress triggers inflammation. When your nervous system stays in fight or flight mode, stress hormones like cortisol initially suppress inflammation, but over time, the system becomes dysregulated and inflammation increases. Poor sleep triggers inflammation. During deep sleep, your body clears inflammatory compounds and repairs damage. Without adequate sleep, inflammation accumulates. Sedentary behavior triggers inflammation. Movement produces anti-inflammatory signals. Stillness allows inflammatory signals to dominate. Gut dysfunction triggers inflammation. When the intestinal barrier becomes permeable, sometimes called leaky gut, particles that should stay in the digestive tract leak into the bloodstream, triggering immune responses. Each of these is a low-level signal. None of them is dramatic, but they add up. And when the alarm signals never stop, the army never stands down. Here is what most people never realize. Chronic inflammation is not the body making a mistake. Chronic inflammation is the body doing exactly what it is designed to do, responding to perceived threats. The problem is that modern life creates constant low-grade threats that our ancient biology was never designed to handle. Your body evolved in an environment where inflammation was triggered occasionally by wounds, infections, and physical danger, and then resolved. Your body did not evolve for a world where inflammatory triggers are constant. Processed food at every meal, chronic psychological stress, disrupted sleep, sedentary days, toxic exposures. Your immune system is not broken. It is overwhelmed. It is responding to an environment that never stops sending alarm signals. Level 3, tissue-level damage. When inflammation persists for months or years, it begins damaging the very tissues it was designed to protect. This is the cruel irony of chronic inflammation. The army that was supposed to defend you starts destroying you. Here is why. Inflammatory cells release reactive oxygen species, highly reactive molecules that damage nearby cells. In acute inflammation, this is useful. It helps kill pathogens. But in chronic inflammation, these molecules accumulate faster than the body can neutralize them. They damage proteins, they damage cell membranes, they damage DNA. Inflammatory cytokines also activate enzymes that break down tissue, again useful in acute inflammation for clearing debris, destructive when the process never stops. Over time, healthy tissue is slowly degraded. In blood vessels, chronic inflammation damages the endothelium, the thin inner lining of arteries. This damage triggers the formation of plaques. Cholesterol accumulates, arteries narrow, blood flow decreases. This is how heart disease develops, not primarily from cholesterol, but from inflammation that damages vessel walls and allows plaques to form. In joints, chronic inflammation degrades cartilage. The cushioning tissue between bones slowly erodes. Pain increases. Movement becomes difficult. This is how many forms of arthritis develop. In the brain, chronic inflammation damages neurons. Synapses become dysfunctional. Cognitive function declines. Neuroinflammation is now recognized as a major factor in Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's disease, and depression. In every case, the pattern is the same. What began as protection became destruction. What was supposed to heal began to harm. Level 4, systemic inflammation. Now the inflammation is no longer local. It has spread throughout the entire body. Inflammatory cytokines circulate in the bloodstream. Every organ is exposed. Every tissue receives the signal. This is systemic inflammation, whole body inflammation that affects everything simultaneously. Here is what happens. The liver responds by producing C-reactive protein, a marker of inflammation that doctors measure in blood tests. Elevated CRP is associated with increased risk of heart attack, stroke, and other cardiovascular events. The pancreas becomes less effective. Chronic inflammation impairs insulin signaling, contributing to insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes. The brain is affected, even though it was once thought to be protected by the blood-brain barrier. Inflammatory signals from the body can cross into the brain, triggering neuroinflammation, mood changes, cognition suffers, depression risk increases. The immune system itself becomes dysregulated. It may become overactive, attacking the body's own tissues in autoimmune diseases, or it may become less effective, failing to recognize and destroy cancer cells. Systemic inflammation accelerates aging at the cellular level. Telomeres, the protective caps on chromosomes, shorten faster. Mitochondria become less efficient. Cellular repair slows. This phenomenon has a name, inflammaging, the combination of inflammation and aging that accelerates biological decline. Two people can be the same chronological age, but have vastly different biological ages, largely based on their inflammatory status. Level 5, disease manifestation. By now, the damage has accumulated for years or decades. Symptoms finally appear. The person experiences chest pain or receives a diagnosis of diabetes or notices memory problems or struggles with joint pain that will not go away. The disease seems sudden, but it was not sudden at all. It was the end point of a process that began long ago, with inflammation that never resolved. Here is the critical insight. Most chronic diseases are not sudden failures. They are the visible consequences of invisible processes that ran for years. Heart disease, type 2 diabetes, Alzheimer's, many cancers, autoimmune conditions, depression, all of them have inflammation as a common thread, not always as the only cause. Genetics, environment, and other factors matter, but inflammation is woven through nearly every chronic disease pathway. Now let us step back and understand the whole picture. Level 1. Acute inflammation, the body's emergency response, protective, temporary, essential for survival. Level 2. Chronic low-grade inflammation, the alarm that never stops, silent, persistent, driven by modern lifestyle factors. Level 3. Tissue-level damage, the army starts destroying what it was meant to protect. Proteins degraded, cells damaged, function impaired. Level 4. Systemic inflammation, the whole body is affected, every organ exposed, aging accelerated. Level 5. Disease manifestation, the damage becomes visible, symptoms appear, diagnoses are made. Each level builds on the previous one. And by the time most people realize something is wrong, they are already at level 4 or 5. So what does this mean for you? It means the goal is not to eliminate inflammation. You need acute inflammation. It keeps you alive. The goal is to prevent chronic inflammation from taking hold. And if it has already begun, the goal is to help it resolve. Here is what actually works. First, reduce inflammatory inputs. Processed foods, especially refined sugar, seed oils, and artificial additives, trigger inflammatory responses. Whole foods do not trigger the same response. The closer food is to its natural state, the less likely it is to provoke your immune system. Excess body fat, particularly visceral fat around the organs, releases inflammatory cytokines continuously. Reducing excess fat reduces the inflammatory signal. Chronic stress keeps the nervous system in alarm mode and eventually increases inflammation. Stress reduction is not a luxury. It is an anti-inflammatory intervention. Poor sleep allows inflammation to accumulate. Quality sleep allows it to clear. Prioritizing sleep is prioritizing resolution. Second, increase anti-inflammatory signals. Movement produces anti-inflammatory myokines from muscle tissue. Regular exercise is one of the most powerful anti-inflammatory interventions available. Omega-3 fatty acids, found in fatty fish, walnuts, and flax seeds, provide building blocks for specialized pro-resolving mediators. These are molecules that actively help inflammation resolve. Colorful plant foods contain polyphenols and antioxidants that help neutralize oxidative stress and support inflammatory resolution. Time-restricted eating and periods without food may help reduce systemic inflammation by giving the body time to shift from processing to repair. Third, support resolution. This is the part most people miss. Inflammation is a two-part process, activation and resolution. Most people focus only on reducing activation, but resolution is an active process that requires its own signals. Sleep supports resolution. Omega-3 fatty acids support resolution. Movement supports resolution. Stress reduction supports resolution. The body needs both fewer alarm signals and more resolution signals. Here is the deeper truth. Your body is not trying to hurt you with inflammation. Your body is trying to protect you. Every inflammatory response began as an attempt to defend against a perceived threat. The problem is not that the system is broken. The problem is that modern life creates an environment of constant low-grade threats that the system was never designed to handle. The body learned that threats never end, so it never stopped defending. But the body can learn a different lesson. When you reduce inflammatory triggers, processed food, chronic stress, sleep deprivation, sedentary behavior, the alarm signals decrease. When you increase anti-inflammatory signals, movement, omega-3s, whole foods, quality sleep, resolution begins. When you do this consistently, day after day, your body learns something new. It learns that the emergency is over. It learns that it can stand down. It learns that it is safe to stop fighting and start repairing. Remember where we started. A cut on your finger, redness, swelling, warmth. Everything working exactly as designed. That same system, that brilliant emergency response, is running inside you right now. The question is whether it is running in emergency mode or in resolution mode, whether it is protecting you or slowly harming you, whether the alarm is temporary or permanent. Inflammation is not good or bad. It is a response, a message, a signal from a body that is constantly adapting to the conditions you provide. Your body is always learning from its environment. It is learning whether threats are constant or occasional. It is learning whether to stay vigilant or to rest and repair. It is learning what kind of world it lives in. Your body is always learning. The question is, what are you teaching it?